So today I decided I'm going to do my first installment of a continuing series on something that drives me crazy called whataboutism. All right? What is whataboutism? Well, let me take you back to when I was just a second year law student and I did a summer abroad at the University of Amsterdam Law School. Yeah. And I had this class called legal argumentation. Very good class about different ways that people argue, but the entire class was based on fallacious arguments, arguments that don't go to the crux of the argument. And one of the fallacious arguments discussed was, well, when someone attacks you, well, you do it, so, right? And basically, the point is that you're trying to point out someone's hypocrisy, but you're not really getting into the argument itself, right? Or the validity of their argument, right? So this has always just driven me crazy, and I was so happy my professor brought this up because I couldn't agree more. All right. Now, politicians on both sides do this all day long, particularly when they've got no argument to make. And I see this happening particularly on the right all day long because it's so impossible to defend this dude in the White House. So instead of actually going to the crux of your question, they do whataboutism. All right? So let me point out a few examples and let me show you why it's wrong and what would be a better approach. And just to be fair, let me start with something that the liberals say all the time, all right? Because they're trying to point out hypocrisy, okay, which is fine. You can start out pointing out hypocrisy, but then move to the actual crux of the matter, all right? Liberals love to say, hey, you can't complain about our resistance or our obstruction because look at what you did under Obama. You know, my first instinct is like, fair point, right? But you can't just say you did it so we can do it. That's ignorant, all right? The better argument is to say, look, first of all, you're being hypocritical, but the fact of the matter is, when you guys did it against Obama, it was unprecedented obstruction. That's point one. And then you can go into an argument on either side as to your philosophy. Is your philosophy that obstruction is okay because it represents the will of the people based on the results of the election? And if the people elected you to resist something that you don't agree with, then elections matter and that's just the way it is. That's a valid argument. On the other side, if you want to say that obstruction is bad because that it creates gridlock in Congress and then you can't get anything done and people should find a way to move to the middle and just agree on something for the people, that's also a valid argument, okay? In a way, I kind of agree with both, all right? So that's the crux of the argument. Deal with that. Don't just say, oh, you did it, we did it, all right? That's stupid. Now, secondly, I'll give you another example. Recently, you got people are trying to actually defend this fool's moral equivalence of the KKK with Antifa, right? This is another what about example that drives me up the wall, all right? Just look at their motivations. Now, the argument from the right is that, hey, Antifa supports violence, so does the KKK. Same, right? Wrong, okay? Look at their motivations, all right? The KKK is motivated by hate and racial superiority. Antifa is supposedly motivated by not liking that shit, right? If the KKK and racists went away tomorrow, theoretically, there would be no need for Antifa, and Antifa would just go away, right? But if Antifa went away, the KKK and racists and neo-Nazis would still exist because they're racists. You see what I'm saying? So the better argument is to say this, all right? All violence is bad. I disavow the KKK. I disavow Antifa's tactics, though. I hear where they're coming from, but they're going about it in the complete wrong way, and we don't need their support. We've got enough peaceful protesters to do this on our own without the right being distracted by Antifa's antics. Okay? That's a much better argument. All right? Now, I'll give you a third example. This Judge Arpaio pardon, right? Oh, now the right's gonna say, but look at Trump. Look at Obama's pardons. All right, he pardoned Chelsea Manning, and he pardoned some dude that apparently was a terrorist or something. Look, first of all, I'm like, you can argue about Chelsea Manning. That's fine, but how do you know that I don't actually agree with you on that? Look, I don't agree with Obama 100% of the time, just like 95% of the time, right? You know, you're not going to agree with any person 100% of the time. I might actually agree with you on this one point, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Don't throw my argument out because you can point one example where I actually might agree with you. But let's discuss that, all right? Let's discuss the merits of the Chelsea Manning pardon. And as far as this other terrorist that they keep mentioning, saying that, you know, he pardoned this person, it's like, why don't we discuss that? And more curiously, why did you not bring that up when he pardoned the dude? Why is it only coming up now? Like, why didn't the right make such a big deal of it then? They're just searching through their archives, trying to find an excuse. They're trying to find a what about argument against our valid arguments against them. And anytime anyone tells you or comes back at you with an argument and they start out with, you know, well, what about this? Or as they say in Haitian culture, e ou même, which means, but what about you? That means that they already know they're losing. All right? So, I just wanted to vent this. The positive thing is that I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep a running list of all the arguments that I hear that are clearly, well, what about you arguments, and I'm going to put them on blast consistently. So this ran a little long, but I'm glad I did it, and I hope you liked it, and I hope you agree with me, because part of the division is that we're just pointing fingers at each other. We can do that every day, because you know what's going to happen? The left is going to, the right is going to lose, because if you want to keep doing this, well, what about you argument? Donald Trump is checking off the box of all the worst things a president could possibly do. And so we could use that argument for all time. Well, what about when Trump did this? What about when Trump did that? You see where I'm going with this? I'm actually trying to help you, conservatives. All right? And this is dedicated to my beautiful, intelligent, amazing mother. And secondly, follow me on Twitter at JGerard Inc. JGerard Inc. Later.